In the vast stretches of the galaxy, empires clashed in a war that had raged for centuries. Alien species fought with technology and power that humanity could only dream of, their weapons tearing planets apart like fragile toys. Among these titanic forces, humanity was insignificant, an isolated civilization still discovering the edges of space, confined to a small corner of the galaxy, unnoticed and untouched by the galactic turmoil. It was a fragile piece, one that humanity clung to, unaware of how close they stood to the edge of a storm. The great galactic powers, vast and ancient, paid little attention to the humans. They were too consumed by their own conflicts, their age-old rivalries, and the seemingly endless war. To them, humanity was a small, inconsequential species, backward in its technology, slow to expand beyond its own star system, and preoccupied with its internal struggles. But like all things in the galaxy, nothing stayed hidden forever. Humanity was growing, evolving in ways the alien empires could not foresee. In the depths of space, distant scouts of the alien factions watched as Earth's ships ventured farther from home, probing new star systems. These scouts observed silently, intrigued by the humans' progress. Earth, with its growing interstellar colonies and fledgling fleet, still seemed primitive compared to the vast armadas of the alien powers. But there was something else, something that the scouts noticed in the way humans approached space travel, war, and survival. There were whispers among the higher echelons of the galactic councils, quiet murmurs of this upstart species. Some viewed humanity as a curiosity, a potential pawn in their larger games. Others saw danger. There was something unsettling about their rapid adaptation, their uncanny ability to overcome every obstacle in their path. Humans, it seemed, were more resourceful than anticipated. The reports were always the same: they were learning too fast, adapting to technologies far beyond their current level. And that concerned the most powerful factions in the galaxy. In their long history, these factions had seen many species rise and fall. Some had been mighty but brittle, shattering under the weight of their own arrogance. Others had been weak, crumbling under the force of external pressures. But humanity was different. Despite their technological limitations, humans had proven time and again that they could bend adversity to their will. Their drive, their relentless push to survive, to grow, to expand, these traits set them apart. As humanity expanded its reach, colonizing worlds on the fringes of known space, the eyes of the galaxy began to turn toward them. Small skirmishes had occurred, mere accidents in the grand scheme of things. A lost patrol here, an exploratory ship crossing into the wrong system there. Nothing that would warrant a war, but enough to raise the hackles of the more paranoid alien factions. And yet the galaxy still viewed them as harmless. That was the mistake. Humanity, for its part, was still unaware of the brewing storm. On Earth, life continued with the same mundane rhythms as it always had. Governments squabbled, economies rose and fell, people lived their lives with no knowledge of the greater dangers lurking just beyond the stars. The human military, still small and underfunded by galactic standards, continued its efforts to defend the colonies and protect Earth's borders, unaware that they were being watched by far more dangerous eyes. It was in these early days that the first signs of trouble appeared. Alien ships, sleek and predatory, began to appear on the edges of human space, watching, probing, testing the defenses. At first, it was nothing more than a minor annoyance. A few patrols were dispatched, but the aliens never engaged. They were simply observing. But with each passing month, the incursions grew bolder. The alien ships moved closer, testing the limits of human patience. Reports began flooding in from the colonies, sightings of strange vessels hovering on the edge of human space, disappearing as quickly as they had appeared. The colonies sent warnings to Earth, but the response was slow. Humanity, for all its adaptability, was still unprepared for the scale of what was coming. The galaxy, vast and ancient, was beginning to take notice. For centuries, the alien factions had fought amongst themselves, their war consuming entire worlds. But now, as the humans pushed outward, they had caught the attention of these warring empires. The humans' ability to adapt, to innovate, to survive, these traits, once thought inconsequential, had become a cause for concern. Alien leaders, some wary, some intrigued, began to speak of humanity as a wild card. A variable that, if left unchecked, could tip the balance of power. Unbeknownst to humanity, their time of peace was running out. The galaxy, so long indifferent to their existence, was watching closely. In the dark halls of alien war councils, plans were being drawn up. Calculations were being made. The question wasn't if humanity would become involved in the war, but when. And when they did, the galaxy would never be the same again. But the humans had always been survivors. From the moment they set foot on their own moon, they had been driven by a singular purpose: to explore, to expand, and to survive. It was this drive that had carried them from the cradle of Earth into the stars, and it was this same drive that would soon push them into a war far beyond anything they had ever known. As alien ships continued to circle the borders of human space, probing for weaknesses, the galaxy held its breath, waiting to see what humanity would do next. And humanity, still unaware of the vastness of the storm building around them, continued to grow, continued to expand, continued to prepare, unknowingly marching toward the war that would define their place in the galaxy. The calm before the storm was ending, and the galaxy would soon learn just how dangerous an underestimated species could be. Humanity's entry into the war was not a choice. It was forced upon them by an arrogant alien faction that saw Earth as an easy target, a prize they could claim without resistance. The invasion began without warning. Alien ships, sleek and predatory, appeared in the skies above human colonies, their weapons aimed and ready. They expected surrender. They expected fear. What they didn't expect was how quickly humanity would fight back. The first strike was devastating. Alien forces, confident in their superiority, unleashed a barrage of firepower on one of humanity's outermost colonies, reducing entire cities to ash in minutes. The aliens had made their statement. Humanity was not welcome on the galactic stage. But what they thought would be a swift conquest became the spark that ignited a fire they couldn't control. The initial shockwave of the attack was felt across human-controlled space. News spread rapidly: an alien invasion, lives lost, entire cities razed to the ground. Panic set in, but it was short-lived. Humanity's history was built on resilience, on facing the impossible and refusing to back down. The response was swift. Human fleets, though outmatched by alien technology, mobilized with unprecedented speed. Earth's military command rallied its forces, sending out ships and troops to confront the invaders. And with them came something the aliens hadn't accounted for: human ingenuity. The aliens had expected fear and disorganization. What they got instead was a race of people who, when pushed, evolved. Humanity's first encounters with alien forces were brutal, but every battle taught them something new. Where they lacked in advanced technology, they compensated with tactics. Their military leaders adapted quickly, learning to exploit the smallest weaknesses in alien strategies. Guerrilla warfare, sabotage, and precision strikes became humanity's weapons of choice. Human engineers, working around the clock, dissected the remains of alien ships, reverse engineering their tech with frightening efficiency. Within weeks, humanity had begun integrating alien technology into their own ships and weapons. The learning curve was steep, but human ingenuity turned every piece of alien machinery into an advantage. They began building hybrid warships, faster and more powerful than anything they had before. The first time one of these ships entered combat, it wasn't just a victory. It was a message to the galaxy that humanity was far more dangerous than anyone had realized. But technology alone wasn't what made humanity a force to be reckoned with. It was their mindset. From the earliest days of war, humanity fought with a desperation the aliens couldn't comprehend. To the alien invaders, war was a calculated game, a means to an end. To humans, it was survival. Every battle was personal. Every soldier fought like it was their last day alive because, for many, it was. As the battles raged on, the aliens began to realize that they were not dealing with a typical species. Humanity's ability to adapt, to change tactics mid-battle, was unlike anything they had encountered before. Alien commanders who had dismissed humanity as insignificant began to speak of them in more cautious tones. The humans, they whispered, were unpredictable. They didn't follow the rules of war that the galaxy's empires had become accustomed to. One alien commander, who had led the initial attack on a human colony, found himself in a fierce battle against a much smaller human fleet. Confident in his superior numbers, he pressed the attack, only to watch in disbelief as human ships executed a daring maneuver, breaking through his lines and crippling his flagship. It wasn't supposed to be possible. The humans were supposed to be primitive, inferior. And yet here they were, defeating him on his own battlefield. The turning point came when humanity scored its first major victory. It wasn't just a small skirmish or a lucky ambush. This was a full-scale battle, and humanity won decisively. The battle took place on the edge of human-controlled space, where a large alien fleet had gathered to push deeper into human territory. The aliens were confident, ready to end the human resistance once and for all. But humanity had prepared. Using the alien tech they had salvaged and enhanced, humanity deployed new weapons and tactics that the invaders had never seen before. Their ships moved with precision, exploiting every gap in the alien formation. Human soldiers, equipped with reverse-engineered weapons, fought on the ground with a determination that bordered on madness. Every inch of ground was fought for like it was the last stand. When the dust settled, the alien fleet lay in ruins. The few survivors limped back to their home systems, carrying with them stories of the humans, stories of their ferocity, their ingenuity, and their refusal to give in. It was a victory that sent shockwaves through the galaxy. For the first time, the alien factions began to understand that humanity was not just a passing nuisance. They were a threat. This victory marked the beginning of humanity's rise in the war. Alien factions, once dismissive, now scrambled to reassess their strategies. Some sought to open diplomatic channels, hoping to ally with this unpredictable new power. Others doubled down, preparing for the inevitable confrontation that would decide the fate of the galaxy. But all of them, for the first time, saw humanity for what they truly were: survivors, warriors, and a species that would not be easily extinguished. And through it all, humanity continued to grow. Every battle, every skirmish taught them something new. They adapted to alien technology, learned their enemies' weaknesses, and turned every defeat into a stepping stone for future victories. Their hybrid ships became symbols of human resilience, fearsome vessels that blended the best of both human and alien technology. But more than that, humanity learned how to survive in a galaxy that had never intended to make room for them. They didn't just fight for territory or resources. They fought for their right to exist in a galaxy that had dismissed them as irrelevant. And with every victory, they carved out a place for themselves among the stars, sending a clear message to every alien faction: humanity had arrived, and they weren't going anywhere. The aliens had underestimated them once. They wouldn't make that mistake again. Across the galaxy, the shockwaves of humanity's sudden rise reverberated through every major faction. Alien leaders, who had once seen humans as nothing more than a primitive curiosity, now sat in tense council meetings, their minds racing to assess the full implications of this new threat. Reports from the frontlines painted a picture that was both alarming and puzzling. Humanity, a species that had barely left its home system, was not only surviving but winning. The galactic powers had never anticipated this level of resistance, much less a strategic force capable of turning their advanced technology against them. In the grand halls of the Zarek Dominion, one of the galaxy's oldest and most powerful factions, the Supreme Chancellor watched with growing unease. The humans were supposed to be an easy conquest, yet they had managed to cripple entire fleets and reverse-engineer alien tech in record time. Their adaptability was unprecedented, and that terrified the Chancellor. Other alien factions were equally shaken, though not all reacted in the same way. Some, like the Avurans, were impressed, even curious, about the potential of humanity. There were whispers of an alliance, of using humanity's ingenuity to their advantage in the greater galactic war. But for many, the idea of working with humans was unthinkable. The Zalarian hegemony, for one, viewed the human victories with disdain. They had always prided themselves on their military prowess, on being one of the dominant forces in the galaxy. That humans, lowly humans, could challenge their might was an insult too great to bear. Their warlords called for immediate and total eradication, sending larger and more formidable fleets into human space, hoping to crush the rising threat before it could fully bloom. But every time they engaged with the humans, something unexpected happened. The humans didn't fight like other species. They didn't follow the rules. They fought with a desperation and creativity that the galaxy hadn't seen in centuries. Every encounter with them brought new challenges, new tactics. Zalarian soldiers who had returned from battles with humanity spoke in hushed tones about the humans' sheer will to survive. They described battles where human forces, outnumbered and outgunned, refused to retreat, holding ground against overwhelming odds. Alien commanders found their conventional strategies failing time and again, outmaneuvered by a species that seemed to thrive in chaos. The stories spread like wildfire across the galaxy, and slowly, fear began to take root. It wasn't just the humans' military capabilities that unsettled the galaxy, it was the unpredictability. The way they absorbed technology, the way they adapted so quickly, and the way they seemed to turn every setback into a new advantage. Other species in the galaxy followed established rules of warfare, bound by centuries of tradition and protocol. But the humans had no such boundaries. They fought to survive, and in doing so, they were rewriting the very nature of war. As alien leaders debated how to handle this growing threat, humanity continued to push forward, undeterred by the scale of the galactic powers arrayed against them. Their victories weren't just on the battlefield. Diplomatically, they began to secure alliances with smaller alien races, species who had been oppressed or sidelined by the larger factions for generations. These races saw in humanity something they could believe in: hope. The humans had shown that even the smallest force could defy the galaxy's giants, and they wanted to be part of that movement. At first, these alliances were small, tentative. Minor alien factions, providing limited resources, cautious about becoming too entangled in what was still seen as a hopeless cause. But as humanity continued to win against the odds, more began to take notice. The Ragarans, a race known for their engineering prowess but long subjugated by the Zalarians, reached out to humanity, offering their technological expertise in exchange for protection. It was a small victory for the humans, but a significant one for the galaxy. The old order was beginning to crack. Not everyone in the galaxy viewed humanity with admiration, however. For every alien race that saw potential, there were others who saw only a threat. The Zalkran Confederacy, a fiercely xenophobic faction, began a covert campaign to undermine humanity's growing influence. They spread propaganda, painting humans as reckless, dangerous, a threat to the stability of the entire galaxy. Their broadcasts reached every corner of known space, portraying humans as a species that would stop at nothing, that would tear down the very fabric of galactic society if given the chance. And yet, despite these efforts, humanity's reputation only grew. Their victories in battle were undeniable, and their ability to forge alliances in the midst of chaos was something the galaxy hadn't seen in millennia. Every faction, every species, whether friend or foe, began to speak of the humans with a mixture of awe and fear. They weren't just another species struggling to survive, they were changing the game entirely. As the galactic powers scrambled to adjust to this new reality, humanity's war machine kept evolving. Their hybrid fleets, made from the scraps of alien technology and human innovation, grew more formidable with each passing day. They had learned to harness the strengths of their enemies, incorporating alien weaponry, shields, and engines into their own designs. What started as crude attempts at reverse engineering had become something far more terrifying, a fleet that combined the best of both worlds. For the alien factions that sought to defeat humanity, this presented a new problem. Every battle they fought against the humans now carried the risk of losing more than just ships and soldiers. Every skirmish, every engagement, provided humanity with new technology to study, to adapt, and to use against them. It was a vicious cycle, one that the galaxy had no answer for. As the war raged on, alien factions began to ask themselves a dangerous question: could humanity be stopped? They had entered the war as an underdog, an afterthought in the grand scheme of the galaxy's conflicts. But now, they were a rising power, one that seemed destined to reshape the future of the galaxy. In the quiet corners of alien space, councils debated in secret. Some advocated for a united front, a coalition of alien races designed to crush humanity once and for all. Others warned that such a move would only strengthen the humans' resolve, pushing them to new heights of creativity and aggression. The galaxy had never seen anything like them before, and no one knew what they were truly capable of. But as alien leaders plotted, humanity continued to move forward, driven by a singular purpose: survival. They didn't care about galactic politics or ancient rivalries. They didn't care about maintaining the status quo. For them, it was simple: live, adapt, and fight for their place in the stars. And so, the galaxy found itself at a crossroads. The old powers, the ancient empires, watched as humanity defied their every expectation. Their calculations, their predictions, all fell apart in the face of a species that refused to be bound by the rules of the game. And in their defiance, humanity had become something the galaxy had never seen before, a force that could not be ignored. The question was no longer if humanity would survive. The question now was what the galaxy would become in the wake of their rise. The final confrontation was inevitable. Humanity had fought its way to the center of the galactic war, carving out victories that shocked and terrified the established powers. The alien factions, once confident in their superiority, now faced a harsh reality: the humans were not going to stop. They weren't just fighting to survive anymore, they were fighting to win. And that terrified the galaxy. The coalition of alien forces, hastily assembled and filled with factions that had once been enemies, now found themselves united against a single purpose: crushing humanity before it could rise any further. The battle lines were drawn near the edge of human-controlled space, where a massive alien fleet had gathered. It was an overwhelming force, the largest the galaxy had ever seen. Warships from dozens of factions, each one designed to bring total destruction, hovered in formation, prepared for the final assault. They believed that this would be the end, the final strike that would put humanity back in its place. But as the human fleet emerged from the depths of space, it became clear that the galaxy had once again underestimated their enemy. Humanity had spent the months leading up to this battle preparing for exactly this moment. They knew they couldn't match the alien coalition ship for ship. Instead, they relied on the very thing that had brought them this far: adaptation. Their fleet was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. It was a patchwork of human ingenuity and alien technology, a hybrid force designed to exploit every possible weakness in their enemies. And most of all, it was a fleet built with a singular purpose in mind: survival at any cost. As the two forces clashed, it became immediately apparent that humanity was not fighting on the coalition's terms. Their ships darted in and out of formation, using the alien fleet's size against it, forcing the massive warships to fire blindly into the chaos. Human commanders, veterans of battles where the odds were always against them, executed complex maneuvers that alien strategists struggled to comprehend. Every second of the battle felt like an eternity, and yet humanity was holding its own against an enemy that should have wiped them out within moments. What the alien coalition had failed to understand was that humanity thrived under pressure. Every loss, every mistake, every setback was a lesson, and humans learned fast. Their adaptability wasn't just about technology, it was about how they thought, how they fought. The alien forces, bound by tradition and rigid tactics, couldn't keep up with the unpredictable nature of human warfare. Every time they thought they had trapped the humans, their prey would slip through their fingers, turning a disadvantage into an opportunity. But this battle wasn't just about strategy. It was about sheer willpower. The galaxy had never seen a species that fought like humanity, with such ferocity and determination. Every human soldier, every pilot, knew what was at stake. This wasn't just another battle. This was their fight for survival, for their place in the galaxy. And they were willing to sacrifice everything to win. The coalition, despite its overwhelming strength, began to falter under the relentless pressure. Alien commanders, confident in their numbers, found themselves struggling to maintain control of the battlefield as human forces broke through their lines again and again. The turning point came when the coalition's flagship, a massive behemoth at the center of their fleet, was crippled by a series of precision strikes from a small squadron of human ships. It was a move that no alien commander would have considered possible, an act of defiance that sent shockwaves through the coalition's ranks. In that moment, the tide of the battle shifted. The alien forces, once unified in their purpose, began to fracture. Some attempted to regroup, others fled in panic, but the damage had been done. The coalition, for all its might, had been broken. As the remnants of the alien fleet scattered, humanity stood victorious. It was a hard-fought battle, and the cost had been high. Ships lay in ruins, and the loss of life was staggering. But they had won. Against all odds, they had faced the greatest military force the galaxy had ever assembled, and they had triumphed. The galaxy, once so sure of its dominance, now had no choice but to acknowledge the truth. Humanity was no longer a minor player on the galactic stage. They had earned their place, not through diplomacy or alliance, but through sheer force of will. The aftermath of the battle sent ripples through every corner of the galaxy. The alien factions, still reeling from their defeat, scrambled to understand what had gone wrong. How had a species so small, so seemingly insignificant, managed to topple the greatest powers the galaxy had ever known? Some blamed their own arrogance, others blamed the humans' unpredictable nature, but the truth was undeniable. Humanity had changed the course of galactic history. In the weeks following the battle, emissaries from alien factions began arriving at Earth, not as conquerors but as diplomats. They came with offers of alliance, treaties, and trade, each one eager to secure a place with the rising power that had shattered the old order. Humanity, once on the fringes of the galaxy, now found itself at the center of its future. But even in victory, humanity remained cautious. The war had shown them that the galaxy was a dangerous place, full of threats that they had only begun to understand. For the first time, humanity wasn't just reacting to the galaxy, they were shaping it. The humans had proven that they could fight and win against the most powerful forces in the universe, and now, they held the future in their hands. But they also knew that this was only the beginning. The galaxy had changed, and humanity was ready to face whatever challenges came next. They had earned their place among the stars, not through conquest but through survival, adaptation, and sheer determination. As the galaxy began to rebuild in the aftermath of the war, humanity's influence grew. They weren't conquerors, they were survivors, and that was something the galaxy respected more than anything else. Alien factions that had once dismissed them now sought their counsel, their strategies, their way of thinking. The old order had been shattered, and in its place, a new era was dawning. And at the center of it all was humanity, a species that had proven, time and again, that they could not only survive in a hostile galaxy but thrive. The galaxy had shuddered when humanity entered the war, and now, as they stood victorious, it knew one thing for certain: humanity was here to stay. The future was uncertain, filled with new challenges and opportunities, but humanity had shown the galaxy what they were capable of. They had fought, adapted, and won. And now, they would build a future on their own terms, among the stars.